Okay, so for today's class, we're going to be doing variation. Now, I'm simply going to say that variation is the rate of change. Change. So variation is simply the rate of change. And in mathematics, we have types of variation. We have the direct variation. We have indirect variation. And this indirect variation can also be called inverse variation. We have the partial variation. And then we have the joint variation. So these are the types of variation that we have in mathematics, and I'm going to be starting with direct variation. So direct variation is simply when two quantities, or when a quantity is increasing as the other quantity is also increasing. Let me use P and Q for example. Now if I should say that P is directly proportional to Q, it means that as P is increasing, Q is also increasing, or as P is decreasing, Q is also decreasing. So this here, this alpha sign is the sign for variation. So now this is how direct variation is. Let me write it out. So this is it. Now when a constant is introduced here, I'm going to be having that my P is equal to the constant. Let me use K, but you can also use C, depends. The constant multiplied by Q, which is equal to P is equal to KQ. Now this is the law of variation for direct variation. Okay, let me be solving a question with this, or let me solve a question under direct variation so that we'll get to understand it. Now I have a question here. The question says x varies directly as y. X is equal to 20 when y is equal to 4. Find x when y is equal to 3. It says x varies directly as y. So now I'm going to be having that x is equal to ky when my constant is introduced. And now the question further says that x is equal to 20 when y is equal to 4. Now, since they gave us the value of both x and y here, the next thing that we're going to do is to find the value of our constant before we move further in the question. So all I have to do is substitute these two values into this equation. So since x is 20, I'll be having 20 is equal to my constant, which I don't know, multiplied by 4, which is y. So all I have to do is divide by the coefficient of the unknown, which is the constant. So I'll divide here by 4, divide here by 4. So I'm having that my k, which is the constant, is equal to 5. So my constant is equal to 5. And this constant is what I'm going to be using to solve other questions in this particular question. So now the question further says that we should find x when y is equal to 3. X is equal to question mark, and then we are told that y is equal to 3. And as we've already gotten, our k, which is the constant, is equal to 5. So now we're going to be substituting this into this equation here. My x is unknown, so I'll write it there, is equal to my k, which is the constant, is 5, multiplied by y, which is 3. So I'll be having that x is equal to 5 times 3 is 15. And that is my answer. Now this is it for a direct variation. All you have to know is that once two quantities are increasing at the same rate or decreasing at the same rate, that they are direct variation. Now for indirect variation or inverse variation, indirect variation or inverse variation is quite the opposite of a direct variation. So for an indirect or inverse variation, when a quantity is increasing, the other one is decreasing. Or when this particular quantity is decreasing, the other is increasing. So now if I say that x varies inversely as y, I'm going to be having that x varies inversely. I'm going to be having 1 over y. So instead of this is what we're going to be having for an inverse or indirect variation. Now, when I introduce my constant, I'm going to be having that x is equal to k multiplied by 1 over y. So I'll be having that x is equal to k over y. So this is the equation for an indirect variation or an inverse variation. Now I have a question here, so I'm going to be solving the question so that we'll understand better indirect and inverse variation. The question says, x varies inversely as y. X varies inversely as y. X is equal to 5 when y is equal to 36. X is equal to 5 when y is equal to 36. Find x when y is equal to 10. Find x when y is equal to 10. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is to first of all find my k, which is the constant, using the first one that I'm given. So since x is 5 here and y is 36, I'm going to be having that 5, which is x, is equal to my constant all over 36. I'm going to be having that k is equal to 36 multiplied by 5. And 36 multiplied by 5 is equal to 180. So 36 times 5 is equal to 180. That means my k is equal to 180. Now I'm going to be using this constant for the second equation, which is this. So now I'm not giving the value of x, so I'm going to have that x is equal to k over y, and our k is 180 and my y is 10. So my x is going to be equal to 18. And that is it for indirect variation. I'm going to be making more videos on joint variation and partial variation in my subsequent ones. So if you have any question on this particular one, you can drop it in the comment section. And please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.